Hey team, in this training, we are going to be going over the foundational macro strategic understanding of what a payment processor is and exactly why you need it. Now, again, we go over this so that way when we get to the tactical, once we actually get into the nitty gritty of what you actually do, you know exactly why you are doing what it is that you are doing. Okay, so if you were to go ahead and ask the top business owners, hey, what are some of the most important systems and operations that exist inside of your company? Without a doubt, not only our own answer, but many of the top business owners' answers would also be that, hey, being able to accept credit card payments is one of the most important systems in a professional business's operations. Okay. And so here's the thing. If we or any other business owner had no way to be able to accept money, then literally the company would run out of oxygen. Okay. And so not just any money, right? We're not just talking about, hey, can you accept cash or can you accept, here, there? No. In today's world, right, we are talking about being able to specifically accept credit card payments. Okay. Literally in the modern marketplace today, it is mandatory that if you want to be able to function as a legitimate professional business, you must be able to accept credit cards. Okay, this is how the entire world works. And obviously, when I say credit cards, debit cards are included in there, right? The ability to accept cards in some way, shape, or form. And that does also now include, as the modern marketplace expands, we're talking about Apple Pay, Google Pay, all of these are extensions of that same system, right? And so here's the thing. If you are out here asking for PayPal or Zelle or checks or bank wires or cash or any of these other forms of payment in today's world, like, you got to ask yourself, is that what a professional business is doing, right? When you go to Walmart, when you go to Costco, when you go to any professional business, are they like, hey, can you Zelle at me, or can you PayPal me? And then that way, you pay the cashier and then the cashier gives it to Walmart or something? Of course not, right? That's not how a professional business is actually going to work. And so if you want people to be able to pay for things quickly and easily, right? Whether that be over the phone, whether that be over Zoom, whether that be even in person, you gotta be able to send them an invoice. You gotta be able to collect credit card information, especially if you're gonna have a recurring subscription to something, right? If you're gonna be running a membership, if you're gonna be having any of that, you ought to also be able to have a legitimate way that is legit, that is actually safe, in order to be able to save their credit card information so that way it can actually charge their credit card ongoing. All of these are features that are required in order to run a modern business, right? You don't want your customers having to figure out, hey, how do I PayPal you or Cash App you or Zelle you or any of that kind of stuff, right? Especially because if you're using PayPal, Zelle, Cash App for personal account purposes, that's actually against the terms of service of those actual companies. And so you can actually get shut down, and then that way they will hold your funds as well. Okay. So to this day, I am absolutely shocked when I hear somebody who is trying to be a business owner. Okay. We're talking about professional business owner. We're not talking about a entrepreneur who's trying to cut corners here and there. We're talking about a professional entrepreneur, professional business owner. And they're like, yeah, you know what? I'm signing up for PayPal, or, I'm having people send me on my Zelle or my WhatsApp or, all this other stuff. It makes absolutely no sense. Okay. So here's the truth. We're going to go ahead and walk you through this in terms of, hey, what is a payment processor? What is a payment terminal? And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the big leagues of actually running a professional business, because we're going to walk you through exactly how all of this works. Okay. So two biggest benefits when it comes to getting your payment set up. Okay. So there's going to be multiple parts of this. This specific training is going to be talking about the actual payment processor. And then in the next section, we're going to be talking about the payment terminal, right? But the benefits of this is that your ability to go ahead and actually ask for payment immediately, right? So you can actually save time and seal the deal. So rather that be when the prospect is in front of you, if you're doing sales calls, maybe you're not doing sales calls, if you're running a community model, there's so many different ways to do business. But the point being is that when the person has agreed to sign up, it's not like, hey, can you wire me something? Or hey, can you figure out how to log into your Zelle and then send it to me on your personal or my PayPal or whatever? You're being able to go ahead and seal the deal right there. And then you're also allowing your prospects, if you're in a B2C space, right? You're dealing with customers, you're dealing with clients directly. You're not in B2B. B2B is like enterprise. You're dealing with, corporations, businesses, XYZ, right? That's not your clientele. You're talking about, hey, I actually have customers. I have specific clients. Then especially consumers, nowadays, it's not unheard of for people to actually be able to go ahead and use credit. Now, obviously, for some people, you might have different ideas. Like, hey, you know what? I would never put up something on credit, XYZ. But you are not making that decision for your customers, right? A customer gets to decide their own finances. And if they want to be able to put something on credit and they got a system and they pay it off and all this stuff, right? That's totally up to them. But a lot of people nowadays, it is very common for people to just put it on credit, and as well as many other benefits in terms of being able to accept credit cards, debit cards, Apple Pay, Google Pay, and all of that. Okay, now, before we actually get into the tactical, because that's exactly what's going to happen in the very next training when we talk about how to actually go through and set up your payment processor, I do want to also go ahead and make it clear that credit card companies do also have processing fees. Okay, so I want to go ahead and make this very, very clear. So if there's any newbie beginner business owners who are out there, newbie beginner entrepreneurs, and they're very careful to not become entrepreneurs, because here's the thing. These credit card companies, how they make their money is that when you go ahead, or when the customer goes ahead and charges a card, there is a 2 to 3% transaction fee. Now, what ends up happening is that newbie beginner owners who want to go ahead and cut corners and they just want to go ahead and save every nickel and dime, everything. That's the reason why small business owners stay small, is because they think small and they think, oh, you know what? I'm going to try to save the 2 to 3% here. Well, okay, there's a reason why the big businesses are using the big providers, because of the fact that they got big because they think big. Okay. And so that's why I want to go ahead and make it very clear is that if there is a single small business owner who's like, oh, you know what? I don't want to have to accept credit cards or use a payment processor because, there's a fee. Well, in that case, I really don't know what to tell you, right? Like, it's like no comment. Honestly, it's like really the value that you are going to be able to get from being able to accept credit cards, to be able to process payments properly, is much more worth than the 2 or 3% that you would save, right? In terms of being able to widen your market, your ability to be able to accept payments from somebody who you normally would not have been able to do, right? Being able to increase your closing call percentage because you can accept the payments right there and then, right? Being able to save a huge amount of time because of the fact that you're able to go ahead and not have to worry about, oh, I'm having to collect cash and check and all this stuff, right? As well as being legally compliant because you're not using your personal Cash App or your Zelle or your PayPal and all this kind of stuff in order to actually collect money, right? So the value that you're going to get from accepting credit cards, trust me, far exceeds that small percentage that you are going to pay. It is absolutely a no-brainer for somebody who's going to be a professional business owner. So I just want to go ahead and make that absolutely clear when we talk about credit card processing fees, what they are and how they work. Okay, next, let's go ahead and talk about the payment processor. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and talk in just a second. We're going to talk about the difference between a payment processor and a payment terminal. These are two terms that you want to go ahead and start to become familiar with as a business owner. But what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to walk you through setting up your payment processor, which is going to be what we recommend right now, at least. The big player in the space is Stripe. Okay, it is one of by far the easiest to use and the easiest to go ahead and get set up, and honestly, one of the largest around the entire world. And again, we don't use PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, all these, because they're mainly used for personal uses, right? You can only kind of accept payments from your contacts, and it's not like you're actually a professional business that way. And I remember I was on a sales call a long time ago with a client, and one of the customers was like, hey, can I, Venmo you? And then you can just give it to NutriFit Wellness, which was our wellness coaching company at that time. And, I was on the line with the customer. And I was like, you know what? This customer is trying to diminish our organization. I was like, yo, when you go to Walmart, tell the person who's checking you out, the cashier, do you think, hey cashier, can I Venmo you so that way you can just give the money to Walmart on my behalf to the groceries? And so that was a good image for us. That was a good sign for us that we needed to go ahead and further legitimize ourselves to say, hey, you know what? We're a legitimate organization here, right? And so that's the reason why we use a payment processor, and the payment processor that we are going to go ahead and walk you through is going to be setting up Stripe. Now, if you are outside of the US or Canada, Stripe, I don't know, they're expanding all the time if it's going to be there or not. However, you can just go ahead and Google Stripe alternatives, and there are many that are out there. Now, I do want to also go ahead and make it clear, Stripe is not the only payment processor that is out there. However, Stripe, especially if you're just getting started off as a new beginner business owner, it is going to be one of the easiest to go ahead and get set up. And that's exactly the reason why we do recommend it. And that's the reason why we're going to go ahead and walk you through that. Now, before we get into that, and we're going to go ahead and close this quick training out here very quickly, is that I do want to go ahead and walk you through what a payment terminal is, okay? Because once you have your payment processor set up, which is going to be Stripe, and we'll walk you through that in just a second, you are then also going to need a payment terminal. Now, those are two different things, okay? What happens is that your payment terminal sits on top of your payment processor. So in this case, if you're going to go ahead and proceed with Stripe, Stripe is going to be the payment processor, but then the payment terminal, that is going to actually be the point of sale, the POS system, right? That's kind of like where do you send the invoice from? How do you manage the customer data? How do you store that customer data, okay? It's kind of like when you go to the store and you swipe the card, that's the terminal, okay? That's the terminal that you actually go ahead and swipe the card on, and then the payment processor is behind the scenes that is in further processing that payment. And so what we're going to be doing in this section of the training is we're going to be going ahead and helping you set up your payment processor. And then what we're going to go ahead and do is in the next section, we're going to go ahead and help you set up your invoicing software and your payment terminal. So that way it's very easy for you to be able to go ahead and send invoices out, especially if you're going to be doing anything that is high ticket, right? So traditionally, if you're doing something that's a little bit more low ticket, then you can get away with having more of a traditional payment terminal, right? And we'll walk you through all of that is and the invoicing and all that kind of stuff, legal agreements, all of that is upcoming. But I just want you to know that there is a difference between the payment processor and the payment terminal and the reason why you are going to need both, okay? So for right now, we're going to only primarily focus on getting your payment processor set up, and then we'll worry about the payment terminal next, okay? So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the payment processor macro strategic overview explained. That's just a fancy way in order to just say we want to go ahead and give you an understanding of exactly what and why this is important before we actually get into the tactical side of getting this set up. So with that being said, we will catch you in the next training.